go on sale. And 15% off your favorite makeup, fragrance, skincare, and more. Get ready for your best fall yet. Today at Macy's. Savings off regular and already reduced prices. Exclusions apply.
Last year's RV trip, we met a couple with the same bumper sticker. What are the odds?
Your cousin isn't a good storyteller.
He was a podiatrist, or was it a pharmacist?
You don't say.
Oh, I can't remember.
But she owns an RV protected by Progressive, and you don't. So until you get your own RV, her stories are the most interesting stories you've ever heard.
Wow, interesting.
And when you do get your own RV, save money by bundling it with your home, auto, or other vehicles with Progressive.
Oh.
Welcome to the brand new Avid Hotel, Wisconsin Dells Lake Delton, where the essentials are done right every time, all while in the water park capital of the world. Make a splash at Noah's Ark, America's largest water park, or at the Land of Natura, Wisconsin Dells Natural Water Park experience. Family fun at Knucklehead's Trampoline Park, and enjoy train-delivered food at Buffalo Phil's Pizza and Grill. Start your day with our free all-around breakfast featuring rotating hot items and freshly ground premium coffee right here in the lobby. And a 24/7 fitness center. The new Avid Hotel, 1273 Kalahari Drive, Wisconsin Dells. Call us at 608-404-7600 to book your next getaway. 608-404-7600. Once again, that's 608-404-7600.
It is time for Kane County Speaks here at WRMN, AM 1410, WRMN Radio on YouTube this morning. And we have the chat room open on WRMN's radio's YouTube page. And also the Image 360 information line if you would like to make any comments today. It's 505-926-1410. And we're joined every month, well, a couple of times a month and 3 times this month by Brian Anderson, leading our way into Kane County Speaks. Always has a great guest with us. No exception this time around. Hi, Brian.
Mark, good morning. Great to be here in Elgin. The weather is amazing. You know, every time I drive into town, I see a different part, and they're just amazing, beautiful homes throughout Elgin. I mean, and I like older homes that were built in like the, 1880s, 1890s, or 1910, 1920. Beautiful homes here. Amazing homes.
Yeah, the architecture here is great. Historical.
And let's keep it that way, right?
Yeah.
Got the pleasure today to get Andrew Sosnowski, who's running for the Kane County State's Attorney, to break away from his just amazing schedule of campaigning and come in and chat with us. We're going to get to that in a minute. I just want to share with your audience, as I normally do, those that are listening today. I try to come in, hey, what's been happening at the Kane County Board? Lately, the massive focus, for good reason, is the Finance Committee. What can we do to balance the budget? They've had 3 special county finance meetings. The last one that I would encourage your listeners to log on was on August 19th. And at the end of this meeting, they have decided they voted on it, which I'll get into that in a minute. And so now it will go to the executive board meeting, which is September 4th. And if it passes through there, it will go to the full board meeting for the entire board to review on September 10th. Once again, trying to raise some type of a tax in Kane County this time, and it's not new, and I'll rewind on that in a moment, but what they passed was to the next committee is a 0.75 specialty retail tax. Now, it's interesting, they did the vote, it was 4-2, 4 of them, hey, let's do 0.5%, let's do 0.75, sounds good. Vern Tepe once again wants to spend the people's money in Elgin like a drunken soldier, right? Nope, I want 1%. We need to do 1%. The county's going to need the money down the road. And at the end of the day, he got outvoted, thank goodness. Now, back in April of this year, there was a finance committee meeting, and they were floating that idea around. I spoke at that board meeting. And, truth be told, and I've probably got some friends that might disagree with me, I'm sure they would, I'm actually not opposed to it. When you get down to it and take a look at it, the problem I have, and it was even codified even more when I listened to this board meeting, I have no confidence that the full board, there are some good board members, by the way, on both sides, but I have no confidence that many of the board members, you give them more money, they're going to spend more money, right? Federal government, state, and local, when they take in money, they're not going to, we're actually going to give it back. So I think that the citizens listening today, log on and listen to that. Please consider going to the board meeting that's going to be coming up on September 4th at 9 a.m. It's the executive meeting. That will either get shut down in that committee or it will get passed to the full board. And then obviously if it gets passed to the full board, then the 24 board members will vote on that on September 10th. And do your research on specialty retail sales tax. I could spend the next 2 hours talking about it, but I won't. I want to spend the rest of the time with this amazing guest who has just amazing energy, and it is Andrew Sosnowski, running for Kane County State's Attorney. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Great
nice
to
to
see
see you, Brian, and Marky B. A pleasure to be here. I've listened to Marky B for the last many years on WRMN, so it's a pleasure to be here with him in the studio.
Yeah, good to have you here. I've talked to you before on the air, but never here in the studio.
Yes,
So.
it was a remote location.
Yeah.
So this is a treat live.
Absolutely
and
a
looking
big
sharp
treat.
as usual.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
So I'm just going to start like I do all the candidates for the listeners either listening or watching live on YouTube. Give us just the snapshot of Andrew. Single, married, children. How long have you lived in Kane County, and what township do you live in?
Well, yes, good morning to all of you, and thank you for listening. My name is Andrew Sosnowski. I'm your Kane County State's Attorney candidate. I've been an attorney for 35 years, so I was 12 when I started. Just kidding. I am going to be 64 years old, so I am not a young guy, but I certainly have a lot of energy, and I have a lot of experience that I want to share. I have been married. I'm not married currently. I have a couple kids. They're adult children. One is 33 now, and the other is going to be 28. I have a grandchild who goes to schools in the Kane County area, up in Sleepy Hollow area. I am a resident of Elgin. I've been in Elgin the last 35 years, on and off. I mean, there's a couple times when you're going through a divorce, sometimes you move a little bit. But for the majority of the time, I've been right here in Kane County. I love music. I play the guitar. I sing. I write my own music. So I enjoy that. I like working out, running. So that kind of keeps me at least healthy to be on the trail. So.
33 and 28. We have got 35, 33, and 20, and then we've been blessed with a soon-to-be 10-year-old grandson and a soon-to-be 4-year-old grandson. So that's amazing, and I'm sure you are hanging out with your grandson as often as possible. And Sleepy Hollow? I love Sleepy Hollow area.
Beautiful area. Yeah, I am in Elgin Township. Actually, I'm one of the 708 or mental health board members there. I'm the chairman of that committee, so I'm active in Elgin Township as well, and that's long before any political campaigning that I've been doing. And then I have my daughter lives in West Dundee in the Sleepy Hollow School District there. And my ex-wife, who's still very close to me, we're very good friends, lives in that area as well.
Well, thanks for sharing that and those nuggets about being on the 708 Mental Health Board. We'll get into that in a little bit later. Sure. But because to me, everything that you have done professionally, privately, community has positioned you right for this moment in time. And so I certainly want to delve into that a little bit as well. So mentioned 35 years practicing attorney, which leads to the second question is, you could continue to do what you've been doing and continue to serve, as you alluded, on the 708 board. What was the dial? What motivated you? What's the why, right, for Andrew to go, I think I'd like to run for Kane County State's Attorney?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and there's probably many factors with all of us when we decide to do this. You just don't jump in and say, I'm going to do this. I've thought about it for many years. My experience as a prosecutor, I've been a prosecutor in Kane County here in the 90s when we had a huge gang problem. And according to the police that I've been speaking to around the county, it's growing again, which is a concern. And I see what's happening in communities like Chicago, where I came from, in the suburban Calumet City. And I saw some really big criminal activities growing. And I wondered why, what's happening. And it's kind of a soft on crime, changing in legislation, and it's based on leadership. And I said, we cannot have this come to Kane County. That's my first thought. So I started thinking about that. And I'm a professor at Aurora University. You may know that. I've also been a professor at ECC for the last 23 years now. And I teach criminal law. Go figure, right? So my students in my class at Aurora were saying, Professor, every time you talk about prosecution, your eyes light up like something is exciting about that, and it is. And I said, well, I'm all for protecting our law enforcement officers. Many of these kids want to be law enforcement officers. They say, we need a hero like you to actually protect us as well as the community. So I said, well, put me on the ballot. Next thing they know, they're bringing in petitions and putting me on the ballot. And they said, we have 14 days to do this, or something to that effect, some ungodly number. And I said, okay, go to it. Then the next thing I know, other people are helping. There's a lot of grassroots organizations helped. And I think it was in a situation where I had ended up like 3 times the amount of signatures needed. And then I'm on the ballot. So it was spearheaded by the students, but it's been in my heart.
So that is amazing. I just want to hang on that for a minute, that it was your students, right? Every teacher, I believe, am I making an impact with my students? Are they listening? Are they, hanging on to what we're trying to teach, right? Whether you're, I don't know, middle school, high school, college, in what you do. What an amazing story that those students, after listening to you, encouraging you to run. Now, don't you have some of these students helping you in the campaign, which is amazing in itself? And kind of share with the audience what's going on with that, because that's outstanding. Sure.
Well, and I am so blessed. It's an absolute blessing. Number one, these students were like at the end of the semester, because it was in December, so they were leaving my classes. So I thought, okay, that's going to go away. They want an A. No, these kids are not about the grades. As a matter of fact, every single one of those students who got involved back in December of 2023 are still involved in my campaign. They are actively involved. They're running committees. They're doing Facebook. So if you see good stuff on Facebook, they're helping me do that, because I was a Facebook idiot. They're using Instagram, all the social media. They're out there organizing walks for me and going out to houses and knocking on doors. These are kids that are energized, and God bless these kids. I think I'm winning already. I'm winning because I'm changing kids' lives and understanding that the political process is necessary to change. And they're all believing in that, and they're doing this. So they are still all involved. They're around. You'll see them. Sometimes they're wearing the Sosnowski for Kane T-shirts. They walked in parades. They're all over the place. So if you see them, shake their hands and meet them.
Well, I just have to once again pause, because what you just said about the students and watching and learning, and I think you'd probably agree, civic engagement in our nation, right, in our state, in our county for that, it's at an all-time low. And so you're right. You've already won. You're inspiring the next generation that you do need to get involved. And you can get involved in that process in many different ways, but just the idea of civic engagement, what's going on, who's running, what's the process, what does it look like, you're engaging hearts and minds, and you're right, you have already won, so that's outstanding. prosecutor in the 90s, what law firm were you working for? And I don't know if you know this off the top of your head. It's like a professional baseball player. You know, how many prosecutions, you know, convictions, you know, what are you most proud of during that time frame?
Well, I guess I'm most proud of doing justice, you know,
Okay.
and having the ability to listen to a case and not judge it based on anything other than the facts, other than what is constitutionally protected, and having that ability. That's a tremendous, tremendous power, and it can be abused. And as your Kane County State's Attorney, I am totally aware of that. I'm aware that oftentimes people who look different or who have different ways of living are treated differently, and we can't have that. So I'm very proud of my accomplishments, even back in the day, to recognize that we cannot use anything but the facts to judge criminal activity. How many cases? I've tried hundreds of cases. I've brought several trials to jury, including a death penalty murder case here in Kane County. It was back in the day when the death penalty was still legal. It was the murder of a little baby who was 3 months old and raped and murdered. And it was a tremendously sad scenario, attending an autopsy of a little infant. I'll never forget that. It still lives in my soul. I've prosecuted rapes and sexual assaults of children and adults. I have been the Deputy General Counsel of DCFS, the Department of Children and Family Services. I was hired to run the state of Illinois, northern region, then I ended up getting into central and southern region of Illinois. And so that has obviously, there's some prosecution in that. I've also been a prosecutor in Kane County for about almost 9 years, Brian. And then in McHenry County, I was a prosecutor. In Ogle County,
Yes.
and in Joe Davis. And in Ogle and Joe Davis, I took temporary assignments to help young prosecutors who were just starting out, and I was doing all their criminal trials. So I did murders for them. I remember a very bad child pornography case that was involved in where the guy got maybe 50 years. So if I picked one thing out, I don't know. There's so many that are there that have helped round me and make me ready to hit the ground running on the first day. Rounding out that a little bit too is civil. Civil is a huge part of the criminal state's attorney's office, I should say. And oftentimes prosecutors go in thinking, I want to just try murder cases. But the real stuff that's difficult are representing the county officials, representing individuals in court that are maybe sued the county. You need an aggressive prosecutor for that. And I was the general counsel of the National Insurance Crime Bureau. It's a civil organization. And I was their general counsel for almost 10 years with a multi-million-dollar budget all over the United States, defending cases of civil nature against my organization. So again, the well-rounded ability, I sound like I'm bragging, but I'm just trying to tell your viewers that that this is not something, you could step in lightly. You have to really be ready.
No, and you're not bragging. You're just sharing a snapshot of your professional background, which is great.
Thank you.
I was thinking. I think I'm trying to think of the book. What was it? How to toot your own horn without bragging. It was called Brag Bag.
Yes.
But there is an art. There's a fine line between confidence and arrogance, right? And so, no, I didn't think that was bragging at all. It's good to, especially in the position that you're running for, that the voters, the listeners, the viewers. Once again, the foundation over the last 3.5 decades is building you, positioning you for this moment in time in Kane County.
Absolutely.
We'll bounce back and forth a little bit, but
Sure.
Just from a leadership standpoint, the current state's attorney for Kane County, how many people does she supervise? Do you know?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's about 115. The concern I have, and again, it's you have to be critical, and that's why I'm running. And the state's attorney right now has, I believe, as I look at the books, doubled the budget in the last 3.5 years. I mean, when you think about that, that is amazing. Doubling a budget. It went from about $5 million almost to $10 million budget. And when I travel this county, Brian and Marky B, when I travel this county, I talk to people and I listen, and they're not any safer. They're not any more protected. And as a matter of fact, when you talk to law enforcement, crime is rising. Every statistic will tell you something because people like statistics to prove that things are happening that are right, but they're really not. If you talk to people, they're concerned. And if you have a doubling of budget, it would be great to say we are the most safe county in the entire world. Then I'd say, okay, the money's well spent, but it's not. Then it becomes wasteful. And what you need to do is I'm not afraid of coming in with the scissors and cutting and saying, these are programs we don't need. These are programs that don't protect and serve the citizens of Kane County. And that's what we're all about. Aren't we all about protecting people? You know, we want to do that in a just way without using any kind of, identity politics to point at people. That's just ridiculous. And I have no tolerance for any racism or any of that stuff. But number one is protecting the citizens of Kane County. I mean, and I can't even, if I look passionate about that, it's because that really is what's fueling my going around and talking to people. I don't want to see this county turn into Calumet City, Illinois, where I grew up, and I can't go to my church. It's padlocked. My school is torn down. The house that I grew up in, across the street, there was a Dairy Queen. We'd go every day. It's now boarded up, and there's graffiti on this. This happened in 40 years, and it can happen in this county, and it cannot happen in this county. And these progressive policies, they mask themselves in ways. It's leading to that. And I don't want to scare your listeners, but this is a tragedy.
No, and I'll just speak to that for a moment. We're seeing that per se going to the board meetings for the last 15 months, that the optics, it's what they're not doing or they're not saying that would give an indication that they'd like certain, they'd like the policies, what's going on in Cook County, coming out to Kane County. And so you're right, whether it's at the board and the policies or the state's attorney's office and what they're doing, at the end of the day, we want citizens in Kane County feeling like, what a beautiful place to live. I'm not overtaxed, which, by the way, we are, and it's a very safe community, which it is, but you're right, it's on that, you want to make sure that we've got all the right people in the right seats doing the right things, whether it's at the Sheriff's Department, the local municipalities. And by the way, all of those men and women, as you know, work so hard each and every day for you and I behind the scenes.
And shame on them. Shame on the board. Shame on people like the state's attorney or these people for oftentimes leading us into a position that they think it's for. Here's an example. Safety Act, SAFE.
I'm glad you brought that up.
But look at the name of that, Safety Act. So if people hear that, they think, oh my gosh, it's for safety. It has nothing to do with safety. Let's stop BSing the people in this county and in the state and in this country by using names, Inflation Reduction Act. Is that, come on. These are things that are absolutely crazy. Shame on them. They try to sell it to us, and that's why I'm stepping up, Brian, Marky B, because I'm tired of that too. I'm one of you.
So we will get into that after the break, but since you brought it up, the Safety Act passed here by Pritzker in the state, across the state, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because you know more than I do about the legal aspect. And as the state's attorney, isn't she just really following what the mandates would be coming out of Springfield? Or do the state's attorney, whether I'm in McHenry County or Will County or some of the other counties, Winnebago County as an example, or Cook County, do I have to be lock and step, or can the state's attorney in each of these counties make adjustments based on their county as far as a state's attorney?
Well, that's a great question. And the answer is there is a lot of discretion that can be used in a state's attorney's office. The chief law enforcement officer or protector, the prosecutor, has a lot of discretion to use the laws to do the things that he or she wants to do. There are certain mandates that you have to follow, and it's a prescript, and you have to follow those mandates. Some of those mandates in the Safety Act, I think, are absurd. But there's some discretion.
And hang on to that. We're going to step into a break, but I want to dig into that a little bit after the break.
It might take a long time because there's a lot of problems.
Kane County Speaks with Brian Anderson and our guest, Drew Sosnowski, and we'll be back in just a couple of minutes. If you have any questions in the next half hour, you can ask them at 847-931-1410, 847-931-1410. You're listening to The First Shift on WRMN. Good morning.
With your 1410 WRMN Newsflash, I'm Sean Kernan. Brought to you by Sky Rizzy. In a move to boost broadband access, Illinois lawmakers have amended county's code, allowing local governments more flexibility in managing their fiber optic assets. Kane County leading the initiative, leveraging over $10 million invested in fiber infrastructure to form a profitable partnership with service providers. Those interested in Elgin's neighborhood history can take part this weekend, August 23rd from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. at the Elgin History Museum. They'll be going through neighborhood histories. The Elgin Police Department holding a series of interest nights from 6 to 7 p.m. regarding their new Transparency Hub. They'll be at Senior Services at 205 Fulton Street on September 4th, New Life Community Church for a bilingual event on September 10th, and the Elgin Moose Lodge at 925 McLean Boulevard on September 18th, again from 6 to 7 p.m. With your 1410 WRMN Newsflash, I'm Sean Kernan.
Every business faces challenges, but complicated, expensive, and uncertain shipping shouldn't be one of them. With USPS Ground Advantage from the United States Postal Service, you can avoid all the noise. No more unexpected surcharges, hidden fees, or complex rate structures. It's just easy, cost-effective, and dependable shipping. Tune your business's frequency to success and turn shipping to your advantage. Learn how at USPS.com/advantage. USPS Ground Advantage. Simple, affordable, reliable.
I'm Tiffany, founder of Harlem Pilates. When I couldn't find Pilates in my neighborhood, I started a studio from my studio apartment. Chase Inc. helped me grow from 1 Pilates studio to 3. Because when you start small, you're going to need some big help.
With the Chase Inc. Business Cash Card, you can earn up to 5% cash back on business essentials, so your business can go from here to possible. Chase for business. Make more what's yours. Real business owner compensated for their participation. Cards issued by J.P. Morgan Chase Bank, N.A. member FDIC, subject to credit approval. Terms apply.
Progressive presents the Sports Flash on News Talk Radio 1410 WRMN. The Tigers pounded the Cubs 8-2 at Wrigley Field. Detroit put up 4 runs in the top of the second. Riley Green, Trey Sweeney, and Kerry Carpenter all homered. It was the 7th win in the last 9 for Detroit. Chicago's trying to make up ground in the race for the 3rd National League wild card. They dropped to 10-7 in the month of August. They had won 3 of 4. The Cubs and Reds both 5.5 games out of a wild card. Justin Steele scheduled to start the series finale this afternoon at Wrigley. The Tigers will make a game-time decision. The White Sox beat the Giants 6-2 in San Francisco. Corey Lee hit a tie-breaking 2-run single that highlighted a 4-run 9th inning. The Sox able to snap a 4-game skid. The Sox are off today. They'll take on the Tigers Friday. The Chiefs and Bears battle in the final preseason matchup tonight in Kansas City. Caleb Williams won't play for Chicago. Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. I'm Chuck Sanders on News Talk Radio 1410 WRMN.
It's the perfect time to get a jump on fall style at Macy's Ultimate Shopping Event, where you'll find incredible savings on the wardrobe update you need. Shop great looks you can wear now and later with an extra 25% off designer brands that rarely go on sale and 15% off your favorite makeup, fragrance, skincare, and more. Get ready for your best fall yet. Today at Macy's. Savings off regular and already reduced prices. Exclusions apply.
Last year's RV trip, we met a couple with the same bumper sticker. What are the odds?
Your cousin isn't a good storyteller.
He was a podiatrist, or was it a pharmacist?
You don't say.
Oh, I can't remember.
But she owns an RV protected by Progressive, and you don't. So until you get your own RV, her stories are the most interesting stories you've ever heard.
Wow, interesting.
And when you do get your own RV, save money by bundling it with your home, auto, or other vehicles with Progressive.
Oh, anesthesiologist. He was an anesthesiologist.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other.
American Legion Post 57 in Elgin, Illinois presents Legion Cruise Nights. Wednesdays, May 8th, June 12th, July 10th, August 14th, and September 11th from 5 to 8 p.m. Come out and enjoy a great evening of cars, food, and music. Motorcycles, cars, trucks, military vehicles are all welcome. 50-50 raffles, door prizes. The event being sponsored by the American Legion Riders Post 57. 820 North Liberty Street in Elgin, Illinois.
Welcome back to Kane County Speaks here at WRMN, AM 1410, WRMN Radio on YouTube. If you want to join us that way, second half of the program, this is the time to call if you want to talk to our candidate, Drew Sosnowski, who's trying to become your next Kane County State's Attorney. And we have one comment on YouTube. The budget doubled and less accountability for the criminals is the comment on YouTube.
I agree.
And Andrew agrees. And let's go to the phones at 847-931-1410 and talk to, I think this might be Frank. Good morning, Frank. Hello, you're on Kane County Speaks. Are you there?
Hello, this is not Frank. This is Linda from Carpentersville.
Hey, Linda. You calling Kane County Speaks, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good morning, Linda from Carpentersville. Nice to speak with you today. This is Andrew.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Andrew, for stepping up. I've been concerned as a citizen of this county for over 25 years. First time I've actually been concerned about our state's attorney right now. And, I'm watching her campaign, and she has no problem going out campaigning with a sitting King County judge. I just feel like seeing that and then seeing her cozy up to the sitting county sheriff, giving him $10,000 for his reelection. I feel like this state's attorney doesn't care about the optics of her actions and even that appearance of bias and cronyism. So I'm going to ask you, what are you going to do to root out some of this, what I believe is a cronyism that's actually occurring in our county because of single-party rule, essentially. And then I also want to point out, too, that I am very bothered that the state's attorney, who sits on the party, the Democrat Party, who likes to say, oh, we need to give people second chances, immediately went into office and targeted a Campton Township trustee that was elected, duly elected by the people, because he had a DUI like 22 years ago. Apparently, she doesn't believe that some certain people can have second chances. So I'd just like your comment on how you're going to root out some of this cronyism and this appearance of political bias and political targeting at that office. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that question, or 4 or 5 questions, but let me see if I can answer them. And I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has. Number one, I have absolutely zero tolerance for cronyism or political favors or using the office in any other way other than to prosecute criminal acts. And again, that's based on evidence, not on political affiliation, political power, race, creed, gender. It has nothing to do with any of that. Is there evidence to support the fact that somebody has done something wrong? So one of my precepts for my campaign is to root out political favors and to not have political favors in my office. So, whether a state's attorney walks, and I don't know what you're saying exactly, if somebody is walking or supporting a judicial candidate, to me, that's the appearance of impropriety. And in my profession, the appearance alone of impropriety is something that is frowned upon. And you could be sanctioned by your own ARDC, which is the Attorney Disciplinary Commission, for acts that are improprietous, appearance-wise only. So something like that, the optics, as you said, listener, I forget your first name and my apologies, but that kind of stuff is absolutely incorrect, and it leads people to be distrustful of political people. I'm not a politician. I'm a lawyer for 35 years, a dad, a grandfather. I'm just a regular guy on the street you see downtown Elgin walking. And so I'm not a politician. But I get angry just like you do when I see politicians snuggling up to other politicians, and the optics of that make it look like these people are doing favors for each other. And the more you peel back that onion, the more you see. Now, I'm not sure if I got all those answers. I think the Campton Township situation, I have heard about that. Second chances are good for people, but then let's not use political favors to give second chances and other people don't get them. And I see some of that going on, and that's not going to happen in my administration. Absolutely my promise to all of you, I will absolutely not use any political favors on all sides, whether you're a Democrat, Independent, Republican, you'll all be treated the same by me, and that is you'll be protected, and if you do something wrong, we're going to look at you very closely.
So, Andrew, thank you for that, and I think the caller was Linda from Carpentersville.
Okay.
Thank you for that, Linda.
Thanks, Linda.
Thank you.
All right, we have one more caller at 847-931-1410, and this is Gretchen. Hey, Gretchen, good morning.
Good morning, Gretchen from Lily Lake.
Good morning,
St.
Gretchen.
Charles. Hi, Drew. So I work very closely with CASA, and those people that maybe not know who CASA is, work closely with DCFS, children who need advocates, court-appointed. So I think my heart goes out to some of these teens that are troubled, that maybe have been given a bad rap or, have just made mistakes but don't have the support system. Mm-hmm. I know you've had some experience with DCFS. You mentioned it earlier. How do you feel like your experience, I guess I assume it would be a balanced approach as far as the state's attorney's office, balancing these kids who need second chances but also need to be held to the law. So how does your experience, how is that going to help you in this new role?
Well, I think one of the biggest experiences is being a parent, a father, a grandparent. You see what children can and cannot do. But one of the things, and thank you for the question, Gretchen, I've worked very closely with CASA. For those who don't know, that's court-appointed special advocates. Back when I started in the early 90s, they were only considered friends of the court. We worked together with the judges to make them now guardian ad litem, so they have a statement in the court. And I'm fully supportive of the CASA organization that does a lot of great things for kids, and I thank them for that from the bottom of my heart. As DCFS, we did work hand in hand, and it's a very difficult issue. I could probably spend 4 or 5 shows talking about the problems with our country, our cities, our states, our communities, on how we treat our children. And a lot of this is based on, dual income families that start needing to leave, and you got latchkey kids, and these kids are running around. They're looking for places to congregate, and there's no community support for those things. And next thing you know, they get involved in gangs, they get involved in situations. If we can catch that early on, we can change the world. If we feed our children's physical, mental, and spiritual needs, we can close our jails and our prisons. And I truly mean that. Now, what can I do as state's attorney to that effect is we can promote programs that help those organizations rise up to help our children. But by the same token, I'm going to end on this, Gretchen, is when somebody does something wrong, they need to know that what they did is wrong. And if we pander sometimes to even young children because we're afraid to punish, then they learn not to be afraid. And then you get this cycle of violence that continues to grow. So again, it's not an easy answer. This is not something I'm going to come in and I have all the answers, but I have somebody who's going to listen, who's got a lot of experience. I've been at the DCFS Deputy General Counsel. I've worked with CASA. I was a big, huge juvenile court guy back in the 90s. You ask any of my colleagues, and I'll bring that spirit to the office.
Very good. Thanks so much for calling in, Gretchen. Hopefully your question was answered by Andrew.
Yes, thank you, Drew, and I look forward to you winning this race, and you've got my vote.
Thank you. God bless you. Thank you
so much.
Take care. All right, 847-931-1410. Phone lines are open, but we have a lot more to talk about, right, Brian?
We sure do, and just so much dialogue. I don't want to have the audience forget. Before the break, we were talking about does the state's attorney, right, with everything they have and the mandates from the Safety Act coming out of Springfield, discretion? And do you have an example that you could share with me and the listeners on this? Yes, they do have discretion, and it can be used in the right way or maybe the wrong way.
Yes, and I have several, but we don't have enough time. But I'm going to give you one that is very important to me, and I want your listeners to understand this. And what I'm telling you is this is going to distinguish me in your listener's mind from my opponent, okay? And it's a very simple situation. Back in 2019 in Campton Hills, Illinois, it's a very white community, okay? It's probably 98% Caucasian. The income of that community is about $250,000 probably. That doesn't represent the entire Kane County, Illinois. A young man took a baseball bat. The young man's name was Thomas Somerville. You can look this up. Please look it up. Your listeners, look this up. Thomas Somerville took a baseball bat and he beat his mother to death. Now, he didn't just hit her once on the head. He didn't hit her twice or 3 times or 4 times. He beat his mother to death to a point where when the coroner came out and looked at it, and please, this is not for the squeamish, but there was blood and brain particles and everything all over that room of that house. It was just the most horrendous scene. You can ask them that. The boy claimed to have been on some kind of drug. He had just gotten back from a vacation in Europe, and he was tired, so he had a defense, if you will. Okay. And he was charged with reckless homicide, murder. He was charged with murder. Okay. So actually, he was charged, I believe, with second-degree murder. He was charged with second-degree murder. So as a result of that, the state's attorney at the time, which preceded my opponent now, went on the news media. You could look this up, too. It's all over the news media, saying what a horrific act it was and that he needs to be punished. And then he left office, and then my opponent comes in. Okay. So there is discretion as to what we do with this person. How do we handle it? How does the community, I'm going to ask you, what do you do with a person like that beats his mother to death? What do you do? Well, we find out that he was a law clerk for Kim Foxx. Now, who's one of the worst state's attorneys in the history of Illinois? Kim Foxx. Those are those progressive policies in Chicago. Right. He knows Kim Foxx. Who knows what kind of conversations took place? He gets a good lawyer, a very high-priced good lawyer, and the next thing you know what the guy got? How many years in prison he got? 0. That boy got probation, and he was out walking the street after that. That's discretion. Do your viewers think, or your viewers and your listeners think that that's the kind of thing we should do? In my mind, absolutely not. I talk about that case around the county. People are incensed still about that. So that's the discretion. The other discretion are things like the trustee, taking away, going after a trustee who's got a 25 to 30-year-old DUI, but giving a second chance to somebody else. I would venture to guess, the reason I say it's a white community, if that was a black kid in the inner city of Aurora and he ran into a person because he was drunk in a vehicle, didn't mean to do it, he would go to prison. And maybe, he should. But the bottom line is there's a injustice going on in the way the discretion is used. And when I see that, I don't like it.
Interesting. Well, thank you for bringing that up. The other thing I want to touch on, which I think is very important, and I want to take the listeners back to the state's attorney and the size of her team, and about 115 team members. Give the listeners just a snapshot of your background where you leading and coaching, directing a workforce. Do you have that experience of managing?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Back in the 90s, I was the Family Justice Division chief, they called it. So I was the chief of the Family Justice Division. It was newly created. I created it. Okay. So what I did is I grabbed a bunch of people from different areas of discipline in the prosecutor's office, doing all things related to children and families. Rape of kids, murders of kids, even child support, anything that affect the fabric of a family. We built a team there. There was about 60 lawyers on that and other professionals. I also, during that time, built not built brick by brick, but built the concept with many people, community members, but through the state's attorney, the Child Advocacy Center in Kane County. That was my brainchild. I just met with the former state's attorney a couple weeks ago for lunch, and I said, I'm telling everybody about that. He goes, well, it was your brainchild. You did it, so make sure you let the people know. David Ackman told me I say that. So I've led people in the prosecutor's office. I've also been the general counsel for a national organization. We had dozens of cases going on that you're managing lawyers from all over the country. So I've had many experiences with leadership. And even in my own law offices, classrooms are leadership. You're leading your students. So
Right. Well, thanks for that. The other thing that caught my attention, the budget doubled, $5 million to $10 million, and that's top of mind for me because in the last several of these finance special committee meetings, the state's attorney and the sheriff, and by the way, other departments have come and spoke in front of the board because the board is like, we've got to make these major costs because we don't know what we're doing and we're spending more than we're taking in. Anyway, the state's attorney said, these are cuts that we can't reduce. Here's my question to you. For me as a citizen, and I may be totally wrong, okay, we were operating on a pretty good clip with a $5 million budget. It goes to $10 million. That tells me that either A, there's so much crime going on in Kane County, we got to hire more attorneys and more prosecutors, and we need more police. So if crime isn't exploded, then why would our budget double? Can you explain that?
Well, I am looking at the budget, but it's hard to get all the data, when you're not in that office. So I've been looking at it. And I will tell you, as a former prosecutor, prosecutors are traditionally underpaid. You can have a prosecutor working for 10 years and only making like $80,000. If you're out in the public sector or private sector, where you're in your own business, you could be making $800,000. So there's a certain amount of inequity in that, and you want to keep good prosecutors. But by the same token, a lot of this money is being spent on programs that, again, do they work or do they not? Statistics can lie. I'm sure the state's attorney would get on here saying, oh, the programs are doing so much great. But you talk to people, you talk to law enforcement officers. They're not happy with these programs. A lot of them are catch and release, giving people opportunities to commit crimes again, and it's not working. So those kind of problems we need to cut. I will look at your viewers here and say, my goal as state's attorney is to bring the budget down, not to increase it. Now, again, we will never compromise public safety, ever, for money. If somebody says it's going to cost a lot for public safety, I'll use that money. But by the same token, we can do this smart, we can do this fiscally responsible, and that's what I'm all about.
Okay. One of the things under that Safety Act, and again, you know more about it than I do, this whole removal of cash bail. Is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Because I believe that I saw a clip of the state's attorney basically saying the same thing as Kim Foxx. Kim Foxx, the same thing on that topic. What's your stance on that?
Well, it's complicated, Brian.
It is very complicated.
Marky B, I have to say, the law itself was huge. The way it was conducted by our legislature is shameful as well. They pushed it under the midnight hour, and then all of a sudden you're stuck with this. A lot of those laws were grandfathered different times, and there's laws that restrict police behavior as well, that say police can't do certain things. They're also going to be held responsible criminally for certain acts. I mean, they're only one portion of that Safety Act, which, again, I hate even using that term because it's not about safety, is and boy, they know how to do that. We keep using safety in that same sentence, and it's not. But part of that act is the no cash bail.
Yes.
And it's called catch and release. People say it in a pejorative way. It's also a area where you're looking at determination of no bail for individuals and putting them on pretrial conditions. That's what it's all about. So it's taking away money as the thing and putting them on conditions. Well, those things still existed even before the no cash bail. Okay. You could put somebody on, put them on recog, they call it recognizance, or I-bond or signature, and let a person out on these same conditions. So it really didn't change it much. But the problem with this is, I guess the impetus behind it is good, and that is we can't have racism, we can't have things that separate us, controlling the judicial process. You can't have it. But is it killing an ant with a sledgehammer, or is it something that we really need? Are there other ways to accomplish this? To me, we need to, number one, keep our community safe and stop racism at the same time. Do the Safety Act laws do that? I say no. Now, one of the things I look at is the determination of the Safety Act is to look at whether or not a certain act is detainable based on the amount of force or amount of, is this an egregious crime?
Correct.
But what I submit to you, and your listeners know this too, every crime that's committed against a citizen in Kane County is egregious to that person. And if somebody breaks into a business down here, I look at the beautiful businesses down in Elgin, and they break into that business and they take stuff out of that business, and the next day they see the person who did that walking the street, that is a horrible thing, and that's happening. And it's kind of like that. There's a statement called the broken window syndrome. Right. As soon as you see a broken window and you don't fix it, this is kind of your broken window syndrome in a huge way. And it starts eroding this idea of protection, this idea of keeping our community safe, and it can't happen.
So as we are close to wrapping up, do you believe, if elected as state's attorney, that you would have that discretion, if you will, working within the limitations of the state of Illinois and on the safety to tweak it to create the experience that you've been talking to us this morning about?
Yes, and how I know I can do that is talking to law enforcement. If you talk to your law enforcement officers, there's ways we can partner together to continue that going.
Okay.
And I've gone north to south, east to west. And, we partner with law enforcement. We talk to them. I was just talking to a bunch of Elgin police officers yesterday. It has to be a teamwork.
Yes, totally. In our limited time, and I share this with everyone, they claim 46% of the voters now in Kane County are independent. And so you're running as a Republican, right? And I believe that a lot of the issues, especially at the state's attorney, whether you're a moderate Democrat or an independent, I'm not liking what's happening in Kane County. What's your voting message to bring that independent or soft Democrat over and go, I've normally would vote for that, but I like Andrew's message. What is that message?
My message is to be fair to everyone. I don't distinguish between, when I'm out talking to people, I don't say, are you a Democrat? Are you an independent? Are you a Republican? All I say, are you a citizen of Kane County? Do you want safety? Do you want to be protected? Do you want your families to feel safe? Freedom, which is the precept of the Republican Party in many ways, to be free, liberty and justice for all, is an important concept. And it's not even just for Republicans. You see independents, you see Democrats. We want our freedom. But the minute you start eroding on safety, you have no freedom. Ask people in Chicago that can't leave their houses without feeling they're going to be attacked. Ask people in larger cities. We can't have that. So my message is, let's keep freedom. Let's keep our ability to walk our streets, to keep our streets safe. So my message is not one of a party. It's one of protection and safety for everyone. Mm-hmm. And I want people to do that. Sometimes I sound a little bit hard, and they say, oh, you sound so hard. But you got to be. Sometimes you got to be cruel to be kind, and you got to protect it. Our families, we run our families that way. We want our children to understand good messages, good things, so that they become good citizens. It's the same thing with us. With our community.
Outstanding. Thank you for this. Thank you for coming in today, Mark. It's always a pleasure to be here. Look forward to seeing you in couple of weeks.
Yeah, great show. Thanks for being with us, Drew.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll come back anytime. So thank you.
Kane County Speaks, wrapping up today. Great interview, and sorry we couldn't get the last couple of phone calls in, but that takes care of today's show. Keep it right here on WRMN AM 1410 and on YouTube as well. Hey there, this is Marky B from The First Shift, inviting you to join Brian Anderson for his new radio show, Kane County Speaks, every Thursday from 9 until 10 a.m. during the final hour of my morning show. It's an election year, and Brian will discuss important local issues and interview local candidates from the perspective of Kane County Speaks. The show will